I don't know. I can't.
The answer is it has not. And do you know why we know that? Because it was incorporated 8 days before this contract went out. You want the American people to believe that this is all above board?
Yes,
that $143 million of taxpayer money just happened to go to this one company that doesn't have a headquarters, doesn't have a website, has never done work for the federal government before, and is registered apparently or attached to a residence from a political operative. And of course, one of the subcontractors of that contract, as you know, is a political firm that's tied to you back when you were governor of South Dakota.
A company with no website, no headquarters, no history with the federal government, incorporated 8 days before a $143 million government contract landed in its lap, tied to a Republican political operative's address. Kristi Noem sat there and called it above board. Rep. Neguse called it what it is, fraud, and the worst part, her own agency filed the paperwork proving her Senate testimony was a lie. Hit subscribe, because now watch how she walks straight into this trap.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Madam Secretary. Thank you for being here. I want to discuss in greater detail the expansion of advertising in your department under your tenure, and I believe you testified regarding some of these matters yesterday in front of the United States Senate. In particular, I want to discuss the department's $220 million ad campaign. This is the ad campaign that featured you at Mount Rushmore. You're familiar with this ad campaign, correct?
I am familiar with it. It was an ad
So
campaign that was.
I'm going to ask you some questions about it, Madam Secretary. So, as I understand it, this is a $220 million ad campaign. It's split between two contractors. One of those contractors got $143 million. That contractor is called Safe America Media, correct?
Correct.
Okay. That company is affiliated with a former political director of the National Republican Congressional Committee. Now, yesterday you testified, I think I'm quoting you right, you said, quote, or in reference to this contract, that, quote, it went out to a competitive bid. Do you stand by that statement?
It was a no-bid contract where two vendors were. It
was a no-bid
chosen.
contract.
If it would have been a no-bid contract, if I'm using that correctly, it goes out to two different vendors.
Correct. So it was not a competitive. Let me try to explain what the discrepancy, because a competitive bid is very different than a no competitive bid, and I'll just explain why. We know that your testimony yesterday, when you said, again, I'll quote, it went out to a competitive bid, is untrue. The reason we know it's untrue is because under federal law, your agency is required, whenever the agency decides to skip competitive bidding, to file a notice with the public explaining why. And in this case, your agency filed a notice. You're aware of that, right? Justification and approval for other than full and open competition. Your agency made a decision not to proceed with competitive bidding, and one of the contractors that got the award was this Safe America Media Company that received $143 million.
Many vendors got the chance to look at that contract and to participate in it.
So
that is why the two of them were chosen.
That's inaccurate, Madam Secretary. I'll read from the notice from your agency. Given the immediate action to significantly reduce illegal immigration and border crossings, DHS identified 4 companies. 4 of the hundreds of thousands of companies in the United States, you identified 4. One of those is this Safe America Media Company. Where is Safe America Media headquartered?
I don't know.
I don't know either, Madam Secretary. We can't find it. We can't find a website. We did find an address that's registered for this company. Do you know where that address is?
Is there a problem with this contract?
I'll tell you about it.
According to
Madam
law,
Secretary, the
address
is registered to a political operative. Madam Secretary, the company, and then I'll give you an opportunity to respond. The company is registered to a political operative in Virginia. Do you know, just by way of example, whether this company that received $143 million in taxpayer dollars, has it ever done work for the government before?
She testified under oath, competitive bid. Her own agency's filing said otherwise. They skipped competitive bidding and identified 4 companies, 4 out of hundreds of thousands, and one of them didn't exist a week before the money moved. Noem's answer to all of it? All done correctly. 14 billion impressions. Fox News, Mount Rushmore, her face, That's not a defense. That's a confession dressed up as a talking point. And there's more. The DHS Inspector General is trying to investigate 11 separate matters inside her department. She's blocking access. Senator Tillis, a Republican, flagged it publicly. A subcontractor on this same deal is tied directly to Noem's political operation in South Dakota. The tighter the question got, the worse her answers got. That is what a cornered official sounds like when the paperwork already beat her to the hearing. Now watch what happens after Neguse drops the fraud accusation.
The reason why I ask these questions is that this is taxpayer money. And I presume, I don't know this for a fact, but Senator Tillis noted yesterday the way in which your agency is blocking the Inspector General from 11 different investigations that it is trying to conduct. I don't know if this happens to be one of them. I certainly hope it is, because eventually the facts will become public in this regard. And there are serious laws implicated, conflict of interest laws, federal procurement laws, that I believe
all
merit—
followed, all done correctly,
Was
all
it-
done
all done
legally.
correctly.
14 billion impressions from that
via-
marketing campaign.
sure.
It was money spent in this country and in 8 different countries that illegal migration was coming from.
Madam Secretary,
Overwhelmingly
yeah,
effective.
we all
$39
understand the
billion.
argument that you've made, that somehow this ad campaign on Fox News of you at Mount Rushmore has led to millions of people self-deporting. You're
Why do you-
using
why do you think
millions
that
of
they did
dollars of
self-deport?
taxpayer
Had they not
money
known?
in this way. It is fraud, and ultimately, I think there's going to be accountability. And I yield back.
Can I speak to the IG?
Yes, you can. But
The IG has been told repeatedly, in writing, verbally, on the phone, that he can have access to anything at the Department of Homeland Security. He can. He doesn't need my permission to come and brief members of Congress on the Hill. He just needs to provide a scoping memo, which is what every single IG gets from every single department and agency. All intelligence agencies require a scoping memo. He just hasn't done that. He wants unfettered access to every single thing in the department, and that's not the process, and that's not any other IG has demanded that.
Here is what this hearing proved. Kristi Noem's department handed $143 million to a company that did not exist until 8 days before the contract. No website, no history, no competition. Registered to a political operative's address in Virginia. A subcontractor on the same deal tied to her own political network. She told the Senate it was a competitive bid. Her own agency's filing says it wasn't. When Neguse called it fraud, on the record directly to her face, her answer was, all done correctly. Twice. That was the entire defense. Meanwhile, she is blocking the Inspector General from 11 active investigations into her department. A Republican senator already called it out. That is not standard procedure. That is a cabinet secretary trying to keep a lid on something. The paperwork exists. The filings are public. The timeline is damning. Noem is not in control of this story anymore. The IG investigations are going to move. The procurement records are already in the public record, and when accountability comes, and it will, all done correctly is not going to be enough. That clip is going to follow her for a long time. If you want this tracked as it develops, subscribe now and hit the bell, because this one is not going away.